But hey, we got other games to get to, Shane. And
Okay.
Georgia goes on the road, number one, and they look the part, Shane, 41-17 over your Vols. And Tennessee, Shane, I mean, as lopsided as the final score is, I thought they came out and they did what they had to do. I mean, Hendon Hooker he missed a wide open touchdown, but that didn't prevent the Vols from marching down the field, getting an early touchdown on the Georgia Bulldogs. They had to respond, and I think if you're Kirby Smart, that's basically exactly what you wanted. You wanted your team to be tested early, see their resolve, and after the early run there by the Vols, I mean, this nasty Georgia defense showed up, and between second and third quarters, I mean, Tennessee, I think they had about 92 combined yards in that middle portion of the game, and by the time Tennessee finally got things going, I mean, this thing was well out of hand. But James Cook had an outstanding game. I mean, he was gangbusters for Georgia, and that's the issue, man, with the Bulldogs. I mean, everybody is so hyped about the defense for good reason, and others are focused on this quarterback situation between Stetson and JT Daniels. It looks clear as day they're going to stick with Stetson, but the real reason it doesn't seem to matter, Shane, is because all around the quarterback, Georgia is just loaded with weapons at tight end, at receiver, at running back. The offensive line is not an issue. So I know Stetson Bennett didn't look that good in this game, in my opinion, aside from a couple runs. He was kind of 50-50 on a lot of these third down passes, which I think Tennessee, I think that was their game plan, make Stetson Bennett beat us, and he did it about half the time there, Shane, and that was good enough for a 30-point win.
Well, obviously, let me back up for a second. This was a tough game. Anytime you lose to a rival, you're not excited about that, Mike. This was an emotional game there at the first. It felt like Tennessee was doing everything they could to stick around and try to stay in this thing. I was impressed with the defense. But talent is talent, Mike. And Georgia, like you said, is loaded top to bottom with it. I mean, they had several injuries in this game, and it was they just reloaded, and it didn't matter who was out there. They found ways to get pressure on our quarterback. A couple things, though, Mike, that really stood out to me in this game was kind of like you said, Stetson Bennett. I'm not sold, man. The blueprint's out. This was, I think, Georgia's biggest test. I mean, when you look at all the games they played, I feel like this one kind of teed it up. Everybody's going to be watching this game film because they're going to see something, Mike. They're going to see how to get pressure on Stetson Bennett. They're going to see how to stop the running game and load up the box. And Georgia was good enough, like I said, because of the pure talent alone, to expose Tennessee and just beat us up, man. Like, took our lunch money. That's what they did. But I still think that both teams learned a lot Saturday. Especially Georgia, man. I think this is a game they needed. I think they needed to get punched in the mouth once, to be down 7-0. I mean, hell, Gary about passed out when that happened. You know what I'm saying? Gary Danielson, he couldn't believe we scored 7 points. How many times have been trailing, you know? So we just think, again, we helped every future team that goes against Georgia not to have to hear that stupid-ass stat anymore. Georgia's got a great defense, and we all know it. But there was some flaws in that defense, and it got exposed Saturday, Mike. But again, I'm not saying that to brag on Tennessee. I'm saying that because Georgia can learn from this. A lot of times I was afraid, that they wouldn't find out these flaws until they got into an SEC championship when they faced Alabama. You know, they've got plenty of time to work on it and perfect their offense and perfect their defense because they do have a national championship team, Mike. And this was the game I think that Kirby needed.
Mm-hmm. And you talk about Georgia's offense not being sold particularly on Stetson. The Bulldogs, Shane, they had 12 possessions in this game. Mm-hmm. They had 5 3-and-outs. And again, remember, this is a Tennessee defense that Kentucky went up and down the field on them just a week ago. They didn't stop Kentucky one time to a single 3-and-out last week. So that is troublesome. I know this one's at home. You got the crowd and the environment and everything. And last week was the worst we've seen Tennessee's defense play all season. So they did have a nice little bounce back here, but that is a little bit cause for concern. if I'm a Bulldog. And we'll cut to Kirby's comments in just a second, but I love the fact that I kind of played out like I thought, man. He said the leaders stepped up after that Missouri game and set the tone, letting everybody know, what was it, 43-6? That ain't acceptable, and that really did end Tennessee this week with Georgia's preparation. I had no doubt they were going to win this game, but let me ask you this, Shane, because I thought that Hendon Hooker played his worst game since he became Tennessee's starting quarterback. And maybe that more had to do with the fact that Georgia was just relentless, getting after him all day long. And you just don't have any time against his defense. But he was really off the mark. He threw that interception, and that was early in the game. I think that was the second quarter. And to me, that was all she wrote, because you cannot give Georgia anything. They're so good. It has to be the other way around. You got to be causing the turnovers, and you got to play a flawless game to beat a team of the caliber of the Georgia Bulldogs. But I don't know, were you disappointed a little bit by Hendon Hooker's performance?
Yeah, there was something that happened, Mike, along the way, and he got rattled. I don't know if he caught a glimpse of Jordan Davis up there. Maybe got a little anxious when he was throwing his pass and trying to get it over those boys. But there was something about that, into the first quarter, second quarter, you started noticing him starting to send some of these overs. I think the first part I noticed was in the red zone when he shot that one 2 rows up. It almost. Right. I think you made the comment to me on a text message. You thought Milton snuck back in there, but it was at that point it just seemed like he never gained his composure.
Right.
And because he was throwing some dimes, man, and not only in this game. But I will say the biggest thing that I took away from Georgia, a lot of times when I'm watching these Tennessee games, there's always a halftime adjustment. And you're going to hear a common theme. They're like, oh, Tennessee, they did well the first half, but then they never do well the second half. But it's these teams, man. They're picking up on little things that we're doing along the way, and they have these halftime adjustments. One thing I noticed with Georgia, they didn't need that, man. You want to talk about a senior-led program. These guys were making adjustments immediately. After that first series, and we ran down there and scored a touchdown, then you started noticing them starting to creep up. We didn't have that big play threat anymore, and I think that's what hurt Tennessee the most. I was surprised we were able to run the ball, but when we couldn't take the top off this defense, those guys just kept creeping up, and then that's when he got nervous. That's when he got anxious. Didn't want to throw any more picks. So I'm not hanging this on Hooker at all. There was a couple of times when we had opportunities. We just had to play a flawless game, and we didn't do it.
Yeah, and one other guy I wanted to mention, Cedric Tillman, 10 catches, 200 yards, a touchdown. I mean, he is a legit number one, and I think this is a guy that had 7 catches coming into the season, so he has thrived under Josh Heupel and going up against one of the best defense in the country. I wonder if you look at the way, if you're a Georgia fan, and say, well, we got some things to clean up in that secondary with the fact that Tennessee. Again, it's just yards. Maybe some of it's meaningless, but over 330 yards passing, that could be something that Georgia needs to look at.
Absolutely, man. There's a lot that we can look at here. I still think we need better play from the quarterback on Georgia's side. I'm not sold on the mailman just yet. I loved his scrambling capability, but that, as you know, Mike, is one of our biggest flaws is a mobile quarterback. So it wasn't a surprise that Bennett was able to do that. But what was surprise is we weren't able to get guys like Mitchell open as much as I thought they would. We knew, I don't know, Mike. It felt like once they got the lead, they started getting conservative again and just playing Georgia offense, man, just leaning on that offensive line in this running game and just put the game away. It's like they get a couple score lead and then they just want to shut down when they could have took this opportunity to really work on their offense, man. That's the biggest thing that drives me nuts about Georgia. And I know this is against my Tennessee Volunteers, but there's no reason that this should have been a 20-point game, Mike. These guys are a lot better than us. And if they really wanted to take advantage, I think if they did and they let this thing air out, this could have been a 3, 4, 5 score game, and it could have been an excellent tune-up. And that's what I'm hating about Kirby, because I'm going to be the first one on social media that's going to point it out when they go against a team that's just as good as they are and they're having trouble moving the ball.
Mm-hmm. Well, hats off to Tennessee. I think they got a really good football team. I think Josh is doing a great job. A tremendous atmosphere to play college football game in. Was really impressed with that. I can't say enough about the leaders on this team. You know, after that game against Missouri, to have 3 guys stand up in the locker room, and I don't know what we won, 40-6 or whatever. I don't even know what the score was, but they said that it wasn't acceptable the way we approached the game, the way we handled the game, and I knew right then that we were going to be okay this week. Now, I still worried a lot, but those guys said everybody better be in there to lift, everybody better be on time, and it just took over the team, and it permeated through them all week. And I thought Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we had really good practices.
Hooker's running ability and the tempo. Are you kind of glad that y'all got tested that way as we're going to this stretch?
Yeah, I mean, I think the better teams you play, the better you get. You know, I mean, every week is a different test, and this was a very distinctly different test. I mean, and teams will see what they did, and they'll replicate some of that. But I'm proud of the way we prepared for it. You know, we got a defensive staff that burnt the midnight oil to prepare for this. This is not an easy prep. And you look at the teams that they've played; they don't have many low scoring totals. And to give up the first drive and then come back and really do a good job the rest of the second half. And remember, guys, they have 4 downs the entire second half. When you have 4 downs, it's different because you're not worried about third down. Third down, second down, and then you got fourth to go for it because you need touchdowns. So, yeah, I'm proud of the way our guys played defensively. As far as Stetson, you know, I thought his feet were a big difference in this game. His athleticism, the play he made on the touchdown run was special. I mean, I thought it was a decision. He made it. He stuck it. He made some plays with his feet. He made some plays with his arm. He can still play better. He can make good decisions and not try to make every play an elite play. And there's some times he's got to decide to run it, throw it away. But he made some plays with his feet, guys, that really helped convert for our offense.
Kirby, was there a point in the season, probably recently, where you came to think that Stetson Bennett was a good enough quarterback to potentially lead you guys to a national championship? And if so, what are those traits that led you to that belief?
I don't know, Jeff, that I ever didn't believe he could. I've always thought Stetson was a good player. You say, well, why wasn't he the one? Well, at the time, we were going with JT. JT, being injured, gave Stetson the opportunity to play in games and make the plays he's made. So, you know, you go back to the South Carolina game, JT played pretty well, right? And Stetson had the interception, the first series or the first time he was in. And then Stetson got other opportunities to play after that, and he's done a tremendous job. And I'm not going to overthink it with Stetson. We're trying to go game by game to get him better. And I'm so proud of what he's been through. For a young man that was a 3 coming out of spring, 3 going into fall camp, 3 coming out of fall camp, you know, what does it say about his character that he stuck around and he kept working to get better? And that's actually what you're supposed to do in life, overcome hurdles and obstacles, and he's done that. But as far as forecasting him as a quarterback and winning, I mean, that's we're worried about Charleston Southern right now.
Yeah, Coach, kind of a big picture question. I mean, you finished with a perfect slate in the SEC, never been done at Georgia, 10-0 to this point, all your goals still in front of you. Just can you talk about where you guys have gotten to this point in the season?
You said it exactly, Chip. You answered it. 10-0, undefeated in the SEC. That's where we've gotten. It makes no guarantee for what's going to happen in the future. We got a lot of guys that we've got to try to get better and improve, and we got to tackle better. There's a lot of things we can work on to get better. And you know what I love is the being in that locker room over there beside me. They all know that, and nobody thinks they've arrived. There's things we can work on and get better at, and they'll continue to do it. But tonight, they went through a tough gauntlet in our league and played well.
Josh, Hendon seemed to just sail a couple of throws today. Did he seem a little juiced up compared to how he's been this year?
Yeah, whether that was juiced up, body not in the right position, or, just the pressure that they were getting at times and him being a little bit rushed inside the pocket, whether the pressure was real or he was feeling the rush from previous plays. We were just a little bit off. The one interception was that, and there were a couple other throws that, sailed on him.
You were even with the number one team for about a third of the game. Is your takeaway going to be that silver lining, or is your takeaway going to be that there's still a ways to go to get there?
Love the way our kids prepared. Love the way they competed. Don't question any of that. Against a good football team like that, you gotta make the plays or make some plays that give you a chance to play it down to the end. You lose the turnover battle 2-0. Can't do that. The red zone for us offensively, not good enough. Change those two things. You got a chance to play it down the end. Our kids know who and what they are and what we're building here, and we'll continue to fight.
Coach, in the last month, you guys have had an opportunity to measure yourself against the top 2 team programs in the country in this league. Just what do you feel like the gap is? What do you have to do to close it?
Got to continue to compete, continue to grow. Our kids aren't scared of walking out on the football field against anybody, either our coaches. And, we're going to continue to recruit. We're going to continue to build the right culture inside the building. And we'll be in more of these games, and we'll end up on the right side of them, too, as we grow.